Welcome, everybody, to another Cyberscope Twitter space where we'll be unlocking the secrets of Web3, this time with Noah from WhaleCoinTalk. It's a real pleasure having you here today, and I'm sure we're going to have a great discussion, which is going to be more community focused this time, but it's always an interesting topic for me. Thanks so much for joining us, Noah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
For sure, it's a pleasure. So first and foremost, before we get into details, I'd like you to give us a brief introduction about, but make sure it's brief, please, because we're going to get into some more details later. So a brief introduction about WellCoin Talk and your role within it.
Sure, WhaleCoinTalk is a Web3 media group. We focus on education and news type content, and we do that through various mediums, including AMAs on Twitter Spaces or Telegram, YouTube videos, or just basic content written on our Twitter. And we really aiming to cultivate the next generation of crypto enthusiasts, builders, developers that come into the industry, and help them take this Web3 world to the next level.
Awesome, that's really interesting, and I really like the approach you guys are taking with the community. So I'm interested to hear more about to learn more about your background and basically how did you get involved in our space?
Um, I started looking into ways of making money in my sleep, I guess, for lack of a better term. Back in 2017, I wanted to find out how to kind of escape the 9 to 5 lifestyle, which is ironic because I work longer hours now. But I came across this thing called Bitcoin. I watched some videos. It made sense to me, and I started buying Bitcoin in 2017, buying ETH as well, a little bit, but not as much. And yeah, since then, I've worked on um, a few, two different companies or two different business startup ideas in the industry. WhaleCoin Talk has been the most successful one by far. And yeah, that's kind of like the high level overview.
Yep. You really got into space very early compared to most of us, I'd say. Because I know most people tend to get most people I know just got into space in 2021, right? Like when it was the golden age. Um, so tell us a bit about how WhaleCoin Talk was created. Tell us a bit about the story. How did everything start, and what are some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, WhaleCoin Talk was created on July 5th of 2021 by my colleague Donut, and he um, basically me, him, and a bunch of other people got rugged on this project called Ghostface. They were banning people in the channel who, or I think it was in the Whale channel, who were protesting about what had just happened, and so Donut made this channel called Whale Coin Talk. I think it was just Coin Talk at the time, a Telegram channel for people to shoot the shit about different projects that were getting spun up in the BSC space, with things like contract scanners, honeypot detectors, making sure that people were sharing information in a safe way. Slowly, the channel started hosting AMAs for free. Very soon, we figured out that the AMA model was something that folks would pay for. So that was our main bread and butter, and it still is for quite some time. Over the last year during the bear market, we had to really pivot and figure out different ways to establish ourselves in the industry, because the AMA churning model wasn't one that was sustainable, at least at the time of the big crash. It wasn't sustainable unless we really pivoted and made a broader name for ourselves. So we started reaching out to blue chips and bringing on some of the bigger names like Avalanche, BNB Chain, Polygon, Algorand, to name a few, and bringing them on for AMAs. We slowly started to move our model to Twitter as Twitter Spaces grew and became more prevalent. And so, we still host AMAs every day. We are one of the bigger news and educational information hubs on Twitter as well. We also host weekly Socratic style discussions, at this point, multi-weekly Socratic style discussions around hot topics in the industry and fintech. So we really expanded kind of our reach past just hosting ecosystem deep dives in the form of AMAs, but also getting on thought leaders and getting on great minds of the industry to have conversations about where it's going and what we can do to make it a safer and more prosperous place. On top of that, we over the last year have forged a number of university partnerships with higher educational institutions in the U.S. and outside the U.S. We really believe that next generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, will be the big wave of money interest adoption that takes the industry to the next level. So really want to help. We really want to help the students cultivate an environment where those entering college can learn about crypto and learn about it in a structured and formal way. Because we most of us had to go online and spend time on crypto Twitter or go to Discords or read blogs just to learn about what's being built in the space. So I think as that more formal educational structure around Web3 is built, especially at the collegiate level, we'll start to see greater adoption and we'll start to see some more robust dApps being built in the industry.
Awesome, great stuff. I wanna stand on 2 points. I'd like you to elaborate more on your university partnerships and like what sort of things you mainly focus on educating users on. For example, is it security based? Is it how to trade? So could you please elaborate on this?
Yeah, so I don't think we really stick to one specific niche. We kind of offer a broad range of crypto content for people to digest and get educated on. And if we're not experts, which oftentimes we're not, we bring on experts to teach our audience about whether it's trading, whether it's DeFi, whether it's NFTs or use cases of NFTs, whether we want to talk about Web3 gaming, whether it's ZK tech. So it's not really, we don't really focus on one specific niche. As I said, we try to focus on the broader Web3 ecosystem and reach out to our partners to help us educate the community if it's something that we're not experts on. And the university partnerships, it's pretty simple. We reached out to various university blockchain clubs across the country, and we asked their leadership to come on for a Twitter space with us to talk about the different ways they're educating their fellow students and how they're facilitating themselves, how big their club is, how far they've come in the short time that the club has been around since its inception. And really, that was our way of extending our hand and kicking off a relationship. And from there, we really just want to support them any way that we can. Because as I mentioned, we really believe that education is a critical catalyst to mass adoption. And it starts at it really starts at the elementary level, but the infrastructure at the elementary and high school levels just isn't there yet. So because we have seen a structure at the collegiate level in these blockchain clubs, we want to help them by offering them our services for free and offering them a helping hand wherever they need it, just so they can prosper and thrive and make this industry a better place.
Great to hear. You also mentioned earlier that when you guys first started, you brought up some big names for an AMA, such as Avalanche, for example. I'm sure it was quite a challenge back then to like approach these big chains. So how did you guys manage to bring them on for an AMA back then?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's kind of a really good question as well, because like I mentioned, we were an AMA churning channel on Telegram, and we were a really good one. We were the best. I mean, in my opinion, we were the best. And you can take it as you can take it as cocky if you want, but I think that if you want to succeed in this space, you have to believe that you're the best. And so I'm sure there are other channels that believe they're the best, but I really believe that we're number one when it came to that. However, it wasn't enough when the bear market started, when the big crash happened in May and June, because the AMA inquiries almost came to a halt for a week. And so we had to, as a core team, come together and talk about whether we wanted to just wait and weather the storm, or whether we wanted to kind of try new things and broaden our horizons and expand our reach and evolve. And so we went with the latter. And like you said, it wasn't easy in the beginning to bring on some of these bigger projects. Actually, the first, I guess I'd say blue chip, because they are still a top 100 project by market cap. But the first blue chip that we brought on was Axie Infinity. And I had to email them for like a month to get them to come on. And I'd say afterwards, it took like a month or two to get, probably like 2 months to get Tron to come on. It took like 3 or 4 months to get Polygon to come on. We got Clayton to come on, I think, after a month. But we had Monero come on, I think, after a month. But to your point, it would typically take a month of emailing at least, but oftentimes 2 or 3 months of emailing to get any of these guys to give us the time of day. And very soon after we had some of those names on, when we would email, let's say, Algorand, we'd say, hey, we've already had Polygon, Tron, Axie, and so, Monero. Oh, we also had Mandela Exchange. But I mean, I love them. They're my favorite partner that we have. I love all of our partners, but Mandela will always have a special place in my heart. They're not really a blue chip, so I don't really count them there yet. They're not blue chip yet. But they were also one of the ones we reached out to. But anyway, to keep a long story very short, this helped us gain more notoriety, and also being on Twitter, moving our model onto Twitter as Twitter Spaces was exploding with the kind of decline in interest, in Clubhouse. Twitter Spaces started exploding. We started to move our model there. So with kind of having those names on, it started to become easier and easier to get other blue chips to come on, to the point where now it's a simple DM on Twitter or a simple email, and we will get the attention of someone from a blue chip team, and at least have the conversation start. So at this point, I think we've had someone from most of the top 100s on. Even Coinbase, we had Scott Shapiro from Coinbase Advanced Trade on. So yeah, that's kind of the long-winded answer to your question.
Awesome. Thank you for answering this. So it truly was a challenge, but I haven't really seen anybody else that brought so many big names on for an AMA, and standing on the educational part, I'm sure that they were great speakers for your community as well. So I'd like to move on a bit about and talk a bit about your team. I've noticed that you guys have a very large team so far. So how did you connect with everyone? And so, for example, under what criteria can somebody be part of your team, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so I guess I'll answer the first question in a more broader format. How does anyone in crypto really connect with anyone, and how do teams form in crypto? I think that if you ask the average person working in Web3, they'll tell you that they met their teammates, or they met a hire, or they got recruited through just hanging out in Discord or Telegram or crypto Twitter. And so, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, the WhaleCoinTalk team all kind of met each other through getting rugged on Ghostface, and people were part of the people were trying to slice a piece of the BSC hype out for themselves, when all these projects were getting spun up, and people were making a lot of BNB just by putting in a little bit of BNB. So I think that most of the WhaleCoinTalk team just met on Twitter, or met on Telegram and Twitter. And then what criteria do we look for? I think it really depends on the role, but typically someone who has creative ideas, who's a go-getter and is also disciplined and proactive as well. So it's not enough to just have good ideas. You need to execute on them and be proactive about it. So I know it's kind of a broad answer as far as criteria goes, but it really depends on the role that they're looking for. But those are kind of the things that I would be looking for is if you have good ideas, if you're creative, if you're proactive, you're hardworking, and then we can kind of figure out where you'd fit in.
Yep. I get it. And the criteria question was a bit weird, to be honest. So never mind this. But at least from all these rags, there's some good things that come out of it, such as building connections and bringing the community closer together and perhaps stronger at the end of the day. So as you guys are one of the oldest crypto communities around, the way I see it, how did you guys sustain? I think we've already answered this partially, but how did you guys sustain what you've built, grown and developed it further while so many other channels and crypto communities are popping off? So we've already talked about you guys bringing on really big names like Avalanche and so on, and some of your university partnerships. But apart from this, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think it all just goes back to the team. We have a pretty tight knit and strong core team, and everyone carries their weight, and uh, everyone's a go getter and proactive. Not to beat those terms like a dead horse, but we really just have a hungry group of individuals that want this company to succeed and want to be one of the big names in crypto and Web3. And really, we're just willing to do whatever it takes to make that dream a reality. I think if people don't know something on my team, well, I'll take myself as an example. If I don't know something, I'll ask for help. Or if I see someone else needs help, I'll go and I'll help them. No one is afraid to take a load and put it on their shoulders and put the team on their back when they need to. And we're really just trying to make this um, one of the bigger companies in the space.
Sounds great. Sounds great. So what sort of projects do you guys bring on for AMAs? For example, what are the requirements for one to go ahead and come on as a guest to one of your AMAs? Because this links to another question that I want to ask on later.
Yeah, sure. So uh, I think that we have a CTO that looks at each project and looks at the contract and makes sure that um, there are no malicious code in the contract, that the team is, um, if not doxed, if they're verified, all that stuff is really important. At the end of the day, there will always be projects and bad actors that slip through the cracks, but those are kind of. I'm probably not the best person to ask that question. The CTO is probably better for that, but he'd probably go into it. I just know that he does his due diligence for every project that comes on our podium.
Okay, awesome. So you guys go through contract code and you do your due diligence on the team. Um, what goes on when it comes to like utility? Is this a requirement to come on to WhaleCoinTalk for an AMA, or kind of just go ahead and build a main project with like a sick community? It doesn't necessarily have to be a utility project from the start.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we harp too much on having utility because even most projects that supposedly have utility, it's like what I mean, most projects that have tokens don't need tokens, but they'll make a token and they'll give it some underlying utility just to say that they have utility. So no, we don't really. I think even the projects with utility typically don't need to have a token, but they have a token because it's crypto. So it doesn't. I think as long as the intentions of the team are good and there's no shadiness in the contract, then we're happy with having them come on because there are a lot of projects like, for example, uh, you have projects like Shiba or projects tokens like Shiba or Doge that were just memes and they're like some of the biggest by market cap now. So you never know whether just a simple community project could prosper versus the thousands of utility projects that have claimed to be paradigm shifting, have gone to zero or close to zero.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. Most of the utility projects out there don't really offer some sort of great solution to our space either way. So, if you don't mind me asking, have you guys had any incidents with projects? I mean, I'm sure you guys had, because even if you go through like due diligence and everything, and even if the contract is like super safe and stuff, there's always ways to go ahead and um, find some sort of window and exploit it or whatever. So, did you guys have any sort of incidents with projects that rugged? And if yes, how did you handle the situation?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure we've had projects come on that have rugged. Typically, we'll just delete everything from the channel. Like we'll delete all the um all the posts or any kind of like video that we have, or any kind of Twitter recording, right? We don't want that up there. But projects will oftentimes you don't have to like you don't have to noticeably rug in order to rug. So you can go look at any of the top like 200, 300 projects, and well, maybe not 100, but like if you go look at some of the 200, 300 projects, a lot of those projects you can join their Discord. The token prices drop by 99%, and you go into the Discord and they claim they're still building, but you can still rug a project without rugging the project. You can have pseudo wallets. You can have dev wallets that don't, you can have like community member wallets that actually belong to devs. I mean, this is how projects rug nowadays. They don't rug right in your face, although some of them do. Some of them soft rug over time, where they have all these pseudo wallets that belong to the team, and they're just dumping on their early investors. So it's really hard to tell oftentimes. But if a project blatantly rugs, then we apologize to the community and we delete everything from our
Hmm.
socials.
Awesome, and I think this links back to the whole educational side of things, because like you said, there are so many ways to rug a project, which is not like straight up removing the liquidity. There could be community wallets that are linked to the to devs and so on. Um, so I want to move to another topic. So assuming someone that wants to start his own crypto community, since you guys are experts in your field, what are some of the tips or advice that you'd share with them?
You get a good group of people to work with. Like WhaleCoinTalk would not be where it is today if it didn't have the core team that it has. So it's nearly impossible to do something like this by yourself, in my opinion. And if someone does do it by themselves, then it's going to take you much longer than it would with the team. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest piece of advice I'd give. Depending, everyone has different ideas and different visions, but the common denominator is to have a strong core team.
Sustaining a strong core team and healthy relationships within, I'm sure, is also a challenge. So say I've built my team and we're all working together, but after like a year and a half, someone is not as happy as someone else. So how would you manage this situation, or sustain basically a healthy environment within the core team?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And obviously, when you have that many personalities, people aren't always going to agree on things, and there'll be disagreements. There might be bickering, but at the end of the day, you take a step back, and you realize that you just want the same thing. You want the company to succeed. That's again the common denominator between all of the teammates is, even if we have a different idea of how to get to our goal, and even if we might fight about it, we want to reach that goal. And sometimes people might be unhappy, and sometimes one team member might feel a type of way, whereas another one is like really happy about the direction we're going to. Then you want to talk to that team member, and you want to kind of see where their head's at. we're friends at the end of the day too. Like, you need to be friends. You're team members, but you also want to be friends so you guys can talk to each other and figure out what's going on and hopefully rectify the situation so people are on the same page. And I'm not going to sit here and say that there's never been any disagreements or fighting or you know uh, anger towards one another at between the WhaleCoinTalk core team, but we've always like cooled off and sat down and talked about it and moved on from it. And I think after a while, once you're going through that, I don't know. I'm going to compare it to like a new relationship. I don't know if you. I mean, I'm sure most people have probably been in a new relationship. In the beginning, there's like a lot of kind of sometimes in the beginning there's a lot of fighting and bickering and just like a lot of misunderstanding because you're trying to get to know the person and you're trying to figure out like how they are. And I feel like that's very similar to being on a team of people. Like, you're trying to figure people out and there might be some growing pains in the beginning, but I feel like now as the core team we kind of really understand each other and we understand where we want the company to go and we just work really well together. I hope that answers your question. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick today, so if I sound like if I sound off or if I'm not coming off as clear as I usually do, that's why.
No, we can hear you just fine, and I hope you get well. I hope you get well very soon. So I just want to give you guys the credit and some respect for this because I know it's one of the biggest challenges around our space, maintaining a healthy team. And even though you might have some differences or arguments and whatsoever, you guys still kept on growing and building. So that's a really big plus for me. So I want to ask you. I want to ask you an interesting question. It's kind of more. I'm going to generalize the discussion here. You've been in the game for a really long time, like you mentioned, and you've experienced a lot of ups and downs so far. I tend to think that 2021 was kind of the golden era. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what has changed since then? If you could elaborate more on the community side of things in terms of like their trading mindset and yeah, basically, what can we do to change this and basically make everyone think like they used to think back in 2021.
I mean, you can't make people think like they used to think in 2021 because there's not as much liquidity in the market. There's not as much excitement in the market. People aren't earning a million APY by staking a shit coin, or people aren't making a 10x in one day by throwing a BNB in like a baby Doge type project. So I think it's just the nature of the market where um, people are risk averse. People might be DCAing into Bitcoin or ETH or some of their favorite blue chips, whether it's AVAX or Algo, whether it's Polygon or Tron, whether it's maybe something lower cap. They're being risk averse, and the sentiment will never be the same until there's the next big thing. I think that there will be another crazy cycle like this just because in 2017 you had the ICO boom where basically these projects were selling vaporware, selling nothing, but people were buying it on the promise of building the next big layer one, the next Ethereum killer, the next million TPS project. And so this time around, you actually had tangible apps or dApps in the form of DeFi protocols for the most part. And so, again, this was an evolved Fugazi where people said, oh, well, now there's actually utility. But the utility doesn't actually do anything. It's just you're plugging in one shitcoin and you're getting more of that shitcoin spat out, and then you're restaking that shitcoin again. So I think the next iteration of a bull run or altcoin run will be even more tangible use cases, right? Where there's actually real world application. And you'll see another boom, although it's going to be a more mature boom, but I don't think you'll see as many random shit coins go 100x, or maybe they will, I don't know. but it'll be one of those things where it'll be seeming there will be seemingly more projects that have supposed utility. But even then, it'll probably be a boom and bust cycle where most of those projects end up dying, and then you'll finally have the Amazons and Googles and Facebooks and Teslas and kind of the big companies come out of crypto and Web3. I don't know if we'll keep repeating the same cycle. I don't think we will after a few more times at the very most.
Yeah, I don't think we'll repeat the same cycle either. But so one thing is for sure that back in 2021 we didn't have the time to like sit down, think, learn, and build. So I think the last few years have been really really beneficial to our space in terms of building and learning more things, learning more things about our space and how we can protect ourselves and become better traders. Um, but what are some of, if you would name some of the differences community wise always, um, in terms of back in 2021 and now, because I mean after all it's all about the community, right? And back in the day, I'm not going to say that we had great devs because we didn't. It mostly just came down to the community. Everybody was just holding, having a great time, helping each other. Whereas now that everybody just kind of fights with each other. I don't know if this makes sense.
Um, I think I'm not really too involved in. I don't think I'm sitting in too many big community group chats and observing the fighting or observing what you're describing. So I don't have too much context on that. I will say that when people lose money and when the opportunity to make money is no longer there the way that it was in 2021, undoubtedly folks are going to be angry and they're going to be on edge and they're going to be bitter. So I think a lot of the community behavior that you're describing is just a reflection of the market conditions.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. I mean, you don't really have to be within other community chats to kind of take an idea of what's going on. I think it totally reflects on the charts nowadays. But yeah, either way. So I'd love to learn your opinion on the future of our space, and basically how are you planning to keep up with it? Because that's also a challenge, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're building a company on we're building a Web3 company, so we're certainly betting on this industry being around, and I can't really imagine a future, you know, of prosperous future and an evolved future where Bitcoin a um, is not an asset that people hold and use and transact with. Maybe not transact with, but hold and use and send money with across borders. And so I think that the technology which Bitcoin is built on, and the technology which the greater crypto ecosystem is built on, is one that is going to be part of the future. And the reasons are obvious. You can store money in a decentralized way that's non-custodial, that allows you to send it across space and time without it eroding, that allows you to be your own bank and to transact with people across borders without third parties or intermediaries getting involved. That allows you to be part of these different communities and allows you to interact with financial instruments that were once only available to people on Wall Street. And so I think this is just scratching the surface. I mean, we can get into NFTs and Web3 gaming and all the other different things that blockchain technology is going to help shift the paradigms of. But I think that, yeah, this industry is not going anywhere. And maybe your favorite shitcoin might not be around in 10 years, but this industry is here to stay.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you, and I kind of think that we're shifting away from the Bitcoin era. I mean, I don't see so much functionality on Bitcoin anymore with so many different options to transact and send money from one country to another and so on. Um, but yeah, I don't really have any more questions for you. I'm not sure if you wanna elaborate on anything or just stand on anything that we've discussed earlier. But it was a great discussion so far, and thanks so much for joining us. Let me know if you'd like to discuss anything else or elaborate on something.
No, no. Thank you so much for having me on. Anytime you guys want to hop in one of our spaces, you're more than welcome. We host our Socratic style discussions that I mentioned earlier. Every Wednesday at 4 p.m. UTC for sure. We're starting to do them on Mondays and Tuesdays, or excuse me, Mondays and Fridays at 4 p.m. UTC as well. We won't be doing one today because we have one of our partners, Cadena, coming on for an AMA. But generally, you guys are welcome to come on any of our broadcasts. And thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. We'll make sure to join one of your broadcasts for sure, and I'm sure it's very exciting. You guys have a lot of people. Um, you guys have a huge community, and I think it's going to be really fun joining one of your broadcasts. Thanks so much for joining us, Noah.
Yeah, thank you, Andreas. I really appreciate your time.
And I hope you get well soon.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, it's just probably a little cold. This is also a byproduct of being in Web3. You don't have a balanced lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I bet you guys barely sleep, right? Because like Web3 never sleeps.
Yeah, it's. I mean, even if you're like, I think that if you're in crypto, if you're actually in crypto, uh, even if you're taking some time, I don't know, even if there's nothing to do with the company, like even if the WhaleCoinTalk doesn't have anything immediate that needs to get taken care of, you're on something else that has to do with crypto because, like you said, it never sleeps. So, uh, I guess everyone last piece of advice is be good to your health because it's like the most important thing that you have.
For sure. I mean, this is one of the biggest challenges as well. Taking care of your health and mental health, especially because living in crypto is like just living in crypto. Basically, you don't live so much in the outside world anymore. I mean, I've been there. I am there, so I totally know what you're talking about. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining us, Noah. And we'll talk soon. We'll join one of your broadcasts as soon as possible.
Great. Thank you, Andreas. Appreciate your time. Take
Have
care,
a great
guys.
day, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next space of unlocking the secrets of Web3. Thanks so much for joining. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, and see you on the next one.
Take care.